Greetings from Episcopal Church of the Ascension. Father Paul here with the start of week 2 of the Good Book Club. We are making our way through the Gospel of John, and today we begin the 3rd chapter, the first 10 verses. There was a Pharisee named Nicodemus, a Jewish leader. He came to Jesus at night and said to him, "Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher who has come from God, for no one could do these miraculous signs that you do unless God is with him." Jesus answered, "I assure you, unless someone is born anew, it's not possible to see God's kingdom." Nicodemus asked, "How is it possible for an adult to be born? It's impossible to enter the mother's womb for a second time and be born, isn't it?" Jesus answered, "I assure you, unless someone is born of water and the Spirit, it's not possible to enter God's kingdom. Whatever is born of the flesh is flesh, and whatever is born of the Spirit is spirit. Don't be surprised that I said to you, you must be born anew. God's Spirit blows wherever it wishes. You hear its sound, but you don't know where it comes from or where it is going. It's the same with everyone who is born of the Spirit." Nicodemus said, "How are these things possible?" Jesus answered, "You are a teacher of Israel, and you don't know these things?" Closing line makes Jesus sound kind of harsh to Nicodemus, and certainly there's some disconnect between what Jesus is saying and Nicodemus's capacity to understand it here. Nicodemus comes with great intrigue, respect, honoring, we think. Perhaps he's like some of the other Pharisees, trying to trick him as well. But if we take him genuinely, or his intrigue into Jesus and take him at his word, it still allows Jesus to offer some instruction to say that to embrace a relationship with God changes us so substantially. It's like being born again, being born into a new way. Often Christians today use this language of "are you born again?" to mean a very particular way of being, or having to say, "I've changed my life because of my belief and my way of following Jesus." While it's not phrasing or words that we use as much in the Episcopal Church, we are also reborn in the waters of baptism, language we find in this gospel lesson as well. And it's interesting. I think sometimes, having grown up in the church, having grown up knowing the gospel, and having heard the stories of Jesus, it's in some ways almost a disadvantage in the recognition of the total radical life change that's being called for. Certainly, Nicodemus thought he had an understanding, or did have an understanding, of what a relationship with God looked like, and Jesus was calling him to change it. What of us? It maybe requires less change. We've recognized early on through the example of others in the church, through our own understanding of the gospel, maybe allows for a less radical change. And yet, the gospel calls us to continually examine our lives and lean into that change as well. So even those of us who've been practicing the faith, attentive to the liturgies of the church, wearing clericals, we're still called towards the examination to be born again into that Spirit. So it's a powerful gospel lesson. I'm glad that you're here participating. I'm glad that I'm seeing some of you reflecting and commenting on the reflections here by means of kind of creating a safe space for us to discuss the Gospel of John as we engage together in the Good Book Club. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in church.